The Nurturing Healthy Masculinity immersive experience will take place over 3 days and will offer a range of experiential activities from gardening to masonry to plant identification and harvesting. Infused throughout the activities will be group discussions surrounding issues which impact their assumptions about what constitutes healthy masculinity. These topics will range from power-based personal violence to stress reduction. So why is this program needed? Well, we are currently seeing increasing rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidality among college-age men. This goes along with the national trends of men in general throughout the world, given lots of pressures and the conformity to masculine norms of avoidance of help-seeking behaviors. We also see this coupled with continuing increases in power-based personal violence perpetuated by college-age men. So we see this with even mass shootings that are plaguing our college campuses as well. So identifying ways that we can prevent these from occurring and encouraging men to engage in healthy behaviors is particularly vital. On that note, we also see decreasing levels of engagement in campus programming by those who identify as men across our college campuses. So why a nature-based approach? As noted in the previous slide, the participation numbers at Westchester University are consistent with the national averages of declining involvement in college men in campus programming. We currently see women stepping up to leadership positions in a majority of our student organizations and as participants in campus-based leadership programs and other opportunities such as our bystander intervention training. When speaking with college men, they often feel as though they don't need to do more than attend classes and instead choose to simply play video games in their room or drink with friends. One area we see men engaged on campus is with our intramural program. This is consistent with research on the connection between mental health and physical activity. So this presents an opportunity to target a traditionally male interest, sports programming. These programs, however, limit the availability of processing time because there's not really a reflection period at the end of the event, and often result in negative outcomes which are fueled by the socialized gender norms of hypercompetition. So we do see some instances of overt violence during some of these events and actually do have some student conduct that results from these programs. But overall, they are a positive community building event. So, taking into account all these factors, creating a nature-based program may present a novel intervention that will encourage men to participate in something new. Though one of the goals of this program is to help participants reconnect with nature as something more than a resource, taking advantage of tropes of masculinity related to adventure and conquest may help men engage in these programs. Prior experiences with other programs I've facilitated in this venue have shown that men are more encouraged to be vulnerable and critically reflect on their role in society as we discuss the day's outcomes in a group-based setting. The Nurturing Healthy Masculinity program will be open to all men on Westchester University's campus. So there's going to be 3 ways that we're going to recruit students to participate in this program. One of those is going to be through student conduct referrals. So given the number of those who identify as men who end up in the conduct office due to alcohol or other drug violations, this program may be presented as an alternative to the current online courses that students must enroll in. There are also other behavioral issues that may present opportunities for individuals to be directed to this program as an alternative treatment or intervention. The counseling center does see limited numbers of men who visit the center, but that's another opportunity for them to provide referrals, is specifically if it's men seeking ways to connect with friends or having trouble developing social connections. So this is a great opportunity to do that as well as have that intentional processing time. And then finally, there will be a self-selection process. So we'll have advertising posted around campus so that participants can choose to participate in this free leadership program. Prior to the experience, participants will be screened using the CCMH titanium instrument, which is the 72 item instrument that's used by our institution and several colleges throughout the U.S. to identify different symptoms that may present significant mental health concerns. So if we identify anything that may pose significant risk of emotional or physical harm to other participants within this screening, those individuals will be shifted to alternative programs that we have here on campus. Maybe that's individual counseling or another program. All right, so for the program itself, day one is going to kick off at 5 o'clock p.m. So this is going to be a casual arrival and check-in time. We are going to be off-site at one of our retreat facilities, so that way we have that immersive nature-based experience, as well as having the participants feel as though they're away from campus. We know a lot of those stressors and distractions are there on campus. We're not going to have computers or anything like that, so very limited technology around us, so that way we can focus on the experience itself and our fellow community. So the check-in process is going to be pretty quick, pretty much just taking them to their shared bunk spaces, allowing them to unpack, and all of that. And then at 5:30, we're going to have our first community dinner. So the way all of our meals are going to work during this program is that we are going to participate in both the cooking and the cleanup of all those meals. So it's not just going to be the program staff that cooks everything, because we also want to unpack that factor of how men in our society expect women, for example, to serve in that caretaker nurturing role. So we want to engage in that work as well. And then at 7 o'clock, this is probably one of the most important pieces, is that we're going to develop our community standards. So we're going to set our ground rules for the group, as well as set our group outcomes. So what we're hoping to learn and gain from the group. So we're going to have some small group sessions where people can work with their group, write out on the poster, and then they're going to post them around the group, and then we're going to all agree to that, sign that, and we're going to have those posted in our group room throughout the entire weekend, so that way we can revisit those. If anything comes up, we can always modify those, and we'll also have our goals visibly present, so we're constantly reminded of the work that we're here to do and grow through this process. And finally, the masculinity mask activity. This will be from 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. So we're going to start with having each individual is going to create their masculinity mask. So they're going to actually decorate this and do different things however they feel that they want to do it. So on the outside, what you present to others, but then on the inside, we're going to look through and really deeply reflect on our values, what we are hoping to gain from our role and as a student, what we're hoping to contribute to society, and all of that. So a really deep activity that will really help us have some great self-reflection time, as well as get to know the other group members and discuss how we feel as though we have to present ourselves. So hopefully breaking down some of those barriers as we go through that. All right, and day two is the meat of our sandwich, which is kind of a funny analogy to use because we're going to be doing a plant-based menu for the entire weekend to kind of deconstruct that concept as well. So we're thinking that. So at 6:30 a.m., we're going to kick off pretty early with a morning movement meditation, aka Broga. So just a fun take on yoga to get moving, de-stress a little bit, identify different areas we might be holding tension in our body, work through that. And then again, we're going to have our community breakfast. So again, working through that, cooking together, cleaning together. Then at 8:30, we're going to go on a more casual plant ID hike. So this is not going to have any formal reflective activity. This is just an opportunity for the participants to go on a walk, get the blood flowing, maybe think through some of those things, but we are going to be discussing, looking at various local plants and picking that up so we can enhance our natural awareness. And then we are going to have some free time, just 30 minutes. And then we're going to have a longer lunchtime period. So we're going to do the soil to plate to soil program and theme that as compost machismo. So going through the composting process. So really thinking through why do we just take everything and not think about giving back? Why do we think about just throwing away resources and that sort of thing? Why do we think of everything as a resource that's not an able-bodied cisgender man? So we're going to really unpack a lot of those conversations there. After that, we'll have some more free time. And then we're going to go on a mindfulness hike. So we're going to work through our senses. So we're going to have a sensory experience as we go through. We're going to focus on what we see, what we hear, what we smell through each aspect of that. And then we're going to have a little reflective component really focused around stress management and why we feel as though we have to rush through everything as we go on that. And then we're going to do some primitive fire building. So we're really going to take into this foundational survival skill, thinking through what resources we have available to us, lots of really great opportunities for processing. We'll also deal with some frustrations tolerance as individuals work through that process of using methods such as a bow drill, which are very challenging to just do, and then also talk through like how we think about like, oh, you just pull a lighter out and set something on fire, but no, like how we actually work through what resources we have to construct with that. Then we're actually going to cook over the fire, so really reward ourselves for our efforts there. And then we're going to have our next group activity, which is igniting your fire. So identifying what we're passionate about, taking on that theme of masculinity, reflecting on that it's not inherently bad or toxic, but there are certain factors that we can embrace and continue to build through as we ignite that fire to contribute to the betterment of society as a whole. And then we're going to do a little bit of a meditation using the flames, and there's going to be the formal closing, but the participants will have some free time around the fire. Obviously, staff will be there to supervise and make sure nothing goes wrong with our go to bed time at 11 o'clock. Perfect. And finally, we have day 3. So day 3, again, is going to start with our morning movement meditation, broga. So again, just a 30-minute session, get us thinking, get us centered. And then we're going to do our last community meal together. And then we're actually going to work through, we're going to do a masonry project. So we're going to think about stonework. We're going to use a lot of metaphors with that process. So it's going to be individual meditative process, but we're also going to talk through that as we go. So as we build and reflect, so talking about what structures we build with our new identification of what we think of as healthy masculinity. And then we're going to have some free time to clean up the cabins, just a 30-minute window. And then I forgot to put our lunch, but we're just going to have a quick final lunch together and to fuel our final closing and our commitment. So we're going to identify those outcomes. We're going to look at what we set as our group goals for the program. And we're going to reflect on that and also identify ways that we're going to continue building this process as we move forward as students and as citizens of our interconnected world. All right. And so our program assessment, so we're going to do a pre and post assessment using 4 different measures. So the first one is going to be our adventure therapy experience scale, the 8th scale. So this is a 20-item scale that identifies specifically how individuals grow through experiential processes that are in a nature-based setting. The second piece is the anchored interdependent masculinity scale, the AIM scale. So this is a 5-item scale that really looks at how individuals are anchored. Are they focused on that independent, competitive sense of masculinity, or are they truly looking at that healthy, interdependent masculinity? Then our subjective happiness scale. So this is a real quick 4-item scale. So are we actually satisfied with our lives? So we can kind of critically analyze how that conformity to traditional masculine norms actually benefits us, where it probably doesn't. And then finally, the Center for Collegiate Mental Health titanium scale, so the CCMH. Again, this is used by our counseling center as well as many counseling centers across the country, so that way we have this national trend level data. So we'll actually look to see if individuals have positive outcomes associated with this experience based on this pre and post assessment. And again, there will be some follow up, primarily using the CCMH scale throughout the program. And finally, we got a lot of references that we use for this. So obviously, masculine toxicity, rethinking how masculinity plays a role in our society is a critical need, especially when thinking about mental health and other outcomes. So this is a critical need that we need to engage men in these help-seeking behaviors through a group-based counseling approach, so that way they can build and foster positive community. All right, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.